The ASNT Research Symposium is an exciting conference for the NDT community. This year's program focuses on the transition of technology from concept and development to real-world application. Our program tracks will include sessions on structural health monitoring, thermography, and neutron radiography. For this issue, we took a moment to talk with Michael O'Connor, this year's keynote speaker, to discuss his presentation, Innovations in Breast Imaging, and why we need them.
I'm a physicist working primarily in nuclear medicine, and I started working in breast imaging maybe 12, 15 years ago. And, coming from an area of working in physics and nuclear medicine is pretty straightforward. It's, you do physics type stuff in nuclear medicine. You get into breast imaging, you realize it's not just the science anymore, it's the politics of who does what, how you do it, how it's presented. There's all sorts of people invested in breast imaging that doesn't really, you don't see that sort of same effect in other areas. It's a very emotional field.
What does innovation mean in terms of breast imaging?
We're looking at trying to improve the ability to detect breast cancer in the first place. So there's the standard mammographies which have been out for many, many years, but there's a big problem with mammography is that it doesn't work well in women who have a certain type of breast composition. If your breast contains a lot of what they call fibroglandular tissue, that tissue can hide a tumor in it, and you can't see it on the mammogram. Okay. And about 30% of women have this type of tissue in their breasts. So it means that for a lot of women who are undergoing annual mammography, the mammogram can miss a tumor very easily. Well, what are you going to do if the mammogram doesn't work well? What's the alternative?
Right.
So people have been looking at ultrasound techniques. There's MRI. There's advanced X-ray techniques of the breast, and there's molecular imaging techniques. The other big thing that comes into play here is that the best technique may not be the one that wins out simply because of cost. In the current healthcare environment, there's a big focus on cost reduction. And undoubtedly, probably the best technique for detecting cancer in the breast is magnetic resonance imaging. But it's an order of magnitude more expensive than mammography. And the health system just could not absorb the cost of doing MRI on everybody. It just would break the system. So now you've got to find a better system that's not going to be that expensive. And that's where there's a lot of effort these days into ultrasound and molecular imaging techniques.
So if you create a cost-effective technique, what are the challenges of getting it into clinical practice?
It's two things. One, it's convincing people that it works. And it's also the second big issue, believe it or not, is upsetting the status quo. In other words, there are technologies already in place, and there's a lot of impetus behind those technologies, and people are reluctant to change. The vendors are not going to give away, if they're selling one technology and you come out with something brand new and shiny that's better, if that vendor doesn't have it, they're not going to obviously promote it, or they're going to keep trying to sell their technology. So it becomes a very interesting mix in the marketplace as to how technology begins to penetrate into clinical practice. And it's driven by a lot of factors, not necessarily by the best technology.
What is the role of the researcher in this process?
You've got to convince the radiologist and the physician and show what you can do and show the strengths and weaknesses. You can't just say, well, here, I've done my work, and pass it off expecting it to somehow survive in the clinical world. But you actually have to keep on top of it and follow this all the way into clinical practice. Otherwise, it will die. So this is a role that engineers are not usually accustomed to having to do. But it's actually an important part of trying to push the technology forward.
The challenges faced by researchers in a 21st century world to continue innovation are certainly intensive and demanding. Please join us at our research symposium on March 24th through 27th in Minneapolis, Minnesota, to attend sessions that will give you a more comprehensive understanding of innovation in NDT. Thanks for listening, and keep making the world a safer place.